You've watched this teaser at least twice, maybe 3 times, and you probably thought you missed something. A whisper, a line buried under the music, some hidden dialogue that explains what happens next. You didn't miss anything. There's nothing to miss. This teaser has 0 dialogue, and that's not a limitation of Netflix's marketing budget. It's a calculated choice, because what this teaser refuses to show you is far more revealing than anything it could say. This isn't about what Netflix couldn't include. It's about what they deliberately chose to withhold, and once you understand why, the entire trajectory of Part 2 becomes clear. Why this teaser feels strange. If you've followed Bridgerton's promotional cycles, you know how these teasers typically function. Season 2 gave us Anthony's voiceover about duty.
It is only out of the greatest love of my family that I aim to choose a bride with my head and not my heart.
Season 3 Part 2 gave us Penelope and Colin exchanging vows.
Penelope Featherington, are you going to marry me or not?
These teasers prime you emotionally. They tell you how to feel about what's coming. They give you anchor points. They provide reassurance or stoke anticipation through carefully chosen words that guide your expectations. This one doesn't do that. No dialogue, no voiceover, no declarative emotional signposting. Just skin, steam, candlelight, and absolutely nothing said. And here's what matters. Netflix isn't withholding footage. They're withholding information. This teaser isn't about advancing the plot. It's about preserving a mood. A very specific, very fragile mood. Don, the question is, why does that mood need to stay unspoken? Why does this teaser feel like it's protecting something rather than promoting something? Because that protective instinct tells us everything we need to know about the emotional landscape of Part 2. This isn't confidence, this is caution. Silence signals emotional suppression. Silence in storytelling is rarely neutral. It's either peace or pressure. And this is pressure. Think about what silence represents in the world of Bridgerton. It's the pause before a scandal breaks, the held breath in a ballroom, the moment before a secret is spoken aloud. Silence is what happens when something is felt but cannot yet be named. It's the space where secrets live, where propriety demands restraint, where desire collides with duty, and neither can be spoken without destroying everything. And what we're seeing here is 2 people who are physically as close as it's possible to be, skin to skin, breath to breath, but emotionally operating in a vacuum. They are not speaking because they cannot speak. Not yet. Not about what really matters. Because the thing that sits between them isn't just class or legitimacy or society's rules. It's the unresolved question that Part 1's ending deferred.
What are you?
What happens now? They've chosen physical intimacy over social resolution. They've stepped into the fire without knowing if there's a way out. They've bought themselves time, but time always runs out, and you can see it in their eyes. This isn't the look of 2 people who figured it out. This is the look of 2 people buying time. There's tenderness, yes, there's desire, but underneath it all, there's tension. The kind of tension that comes from knowing that what you have right now exists in a bubble, and bubbles always burst. They're not celebrating. They're not secure. They're savoring a moment they both know is temporary. And that's why there are no words, because words would force them to acknowledge what they're both avoiding. What the teaser refuses to show. Now let's talk about what's missing, because the absences in this teaser are just as telling as what's included. No resolution, no verbal commitment, no clarity about Benedict's choice, no acknowledgement of Sophie's social standing. No moment of public acceptance. Every element that would signal a problem solved has been deliberately stripped away. You know what you see in traditional romance resolutions? Words, declarations. I choose you. I don't care what they think. Those moments transform private feeling into public commitment. The declaration scene, the moment where love becomes louder than fear. But here, nothing. Just 2 people in a bathtub, suspended in a moment that could go either way. Netflix is protecting the central tension of Part 2. They're not showing you acceptance because it may not have happened yet. They're not showing you rejection because that would spoil the structure. What they're showing you is limbo. A beautiful, intimate, deeply romantic holding pattern, but a holding pattern nonetheless. This teaser doesn't want you to know what Benedict decides. It wants you to know that the decision hasn't been made easily, that the space between desire and duty hasn't collapsed. It's just been delayed. And delays, in Bridgerton's world, are never permanent. Something always forces the issue. Part 2 will be about what breaks this silence. The visual confirmation of the trap. Here's where it gets interesting, because this silence isn't just mood setting, it's proof. Proof that the so-called happy ending of Part 1 was never an ending at all. It was a deferral dressed up as resolution. Benedict didn't solve the problem, he postponed it. He offered Sophie a mistress arrangement, a way to be together without confronting the social consequences of her illegitimacy.
Sophie. Be my mistress.
physical intimacy without social legitimacy. It's a trap disguised as compromise. And the silence in this teaser confirms that trap is still active, because if they had resolved it, if Benedict had publicly chosen Sophie, if he'd defied his family and society, there would be words here. There would be laughter, vows, declarations. Language is how you formalize change. Silence is how you avoid it. Words make things real. Words make things permanent. And the absence of words means nothing has been made permanent yet. The silence is the elephant in the room. It's the unspoken reality that Sophie's class and illegitimacy still haven't been addressed.
He is clearly looking for you.
He does not want to find me. He wants to find the lady in the silver gown.
They're in this gorgeous, candlelit, steamy bubble, but they're holding their breath because the moment they talk about it, the bubble bursts. Look at the intimacy paradox here. Visually, they're as connected as two people can be, but audibly, total disconnection. You can be naked with someone and still not be honest with them. Physical intimacy can become a substitute for emotional honesty. It can become a way of postponing the hard conversations, the real decisions, the moments that require courage rather than desire. This disconnect is the trap. Benedict has what he wanted, Sophie, in his arms, in his life. But Sophie doesn't have what she needs, safety, legitimacy, a future that doesn't require her to disappear. And until that's spoken, acknowledged, and solved, they're not free. They're just waiting. The silence is the sound of two people holding their breath, waiting for the real world to crash in. What part 2 will actually be about? So what does this mean for part 2? Let's be clear, this isn't going to be 4 more episodes of bathtub scenes and longing glances. The silence in this teaser is the last silence. Part 2 is about what happens when words finally arrive, when the private becomes public, when the postponed decision can no longer be postponed. Because here's the structure you should expect. Part 1 was the private story, the meeting, the desire, the secret relationship. Part 2 is the public reckoning, the moment Benedict has to stop postponing and start declaring. The moment Sophie has to stop accepting scraps and start demanding her worth. The moment where love stops being a refuge and becomes a battlefield. This won't be a romance about falling in love. That already happened. This will be a story about the cost of that love, what Benedict is willing to sacrifice, what Sophie is willing to accept, and whether the Bridgerton family and society can survive the truth being spoken aloud. It's about whether Benedict has the courage to make Sophie legitimate in the eyes of the world that raised him, or whether he'll ask her to remain in the shadows. It's about whether Sophie will accept half a life or demand all of it. The teaser's silence is the warning. It's telling you, enjoy this quiet moment, because once the talking starts, everything changes. And there's no going back. Words have consequences, declarations have costs, and part 2 will be about paying them. The last refuge. You came here thinking this teaser didn't tell you anything, but it told you everything. It told you that Benedict and Sophie are still trapped, that the central conflict hasn't been solved, it's been delayed. That intimacy without honesty is just another form of hiding. That the Mistress arrangement was never a solution. It was always a stopgap, a way of having what they want without facing what it costs. Silence was their last refuge. Part 2 is what happens when that refuge collapses. If you haven't already, go back and watch my breakdown of why Part 1's ending was a trap, not a triumph, because everything in this teaser confirms it. And if you want to understand what's actually at stake in Part 2, that's where you start. The words are coming, and when they do, no one's walking away clean.